So we are back on South Audley Street. You may remember that we did an episode on Harry's Bar and of course an episode on Purdy from behind, the cameraman here. But in 2017, a little shop opened up, a brand that no one had ever heard of, but in the intervening years has become one of the most respected and admired bag makers in the world. It's Métier. So I've given you an intro to the brand and we'll come on to product in a sec, but let's talk story. And I'm here with the storyteller herself. This is Melissa Morris, founder of Métier. Melissa, it's so lovely to see you. Thank you for having us here today. Can you just tell me how that seed of Métier was planted for you and how it then grew into what it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for being here. I've always really loved design in the truest sense. And for me, a big part of that was really understanding how people use your creation. So it's not just about aesthetic or even craftsmanship, but actually also the utility of it and what people need. And I really found that I felt and experienced myself that there was a real gap in what was being offered in leather goods. There were some really beautifully crafted bags and some beautiful bags for sure, but I felt that there was a missing of what actually is needed for a modern life, which is very busy, on the go from morning to night. We travel more than ever. The pace of life is really different in the 21st century, and while there were some designs that sort of reflected the utility and the functionality required, they didn't match up with then also the high craftsmanship and elegant design. And so I really wanted to merge both together.
And I mean, the thing is that it's interesting to hear you say that you noticed a gap, because for a layman or anyone stood a little bit back from this world, you might think that leather goods, especially for women, I mean, it's a saturated market because everybody does bags because, it's a sort of a key item for a woman's wardrobe. So what is it that Métier does that kind of differentiates itself from everywhere else? Because everyone needs their own sort of USP to some extent.
Yeah, well, I think, for me, the starting point is the client and how they're using it. So it is very much in the same way you would go to a tailor and create something bespoke to fit them and based on a fabric for their specific needs and the climate and all of that. That's the way I approach bag design. So I really start first with where are you going and what do you need to carry with it. So if it's a laptop, if it's easy access for a passport if you're traveling, if it's modularity because you're going on a multi-day trip or have multiple stops throughout the day. That's sort of where I start before I even put any sort of shape to any design. And once I sort of have that list of requirements in a way in my head of what you really need, I then bring it to life. And, I really think about weight. I think about the ways that you can maximize space. So I love boat design, actually. And actually, my store is very much inspired by a boat because you can take a relatively small space and really maximize it by utilizing the walls.
Okay, that's a really interesting idea. And so the bags are a kind of sort of microcosm of that. Really,
yeah,
so
I really, rather than stacking up inside a bag, which takes a lot of bulk and it's not really efficient, I sort of have created this whole system of sort of pockets and other elements around the walls behind the bag so that the inner cavity then can be as small as required. So it can be that your laptop and then is in one side and your chargers are in another, and then there's sort of a dashboard for all of your essentials, another pocket for your sunglasses, and then that inside can just be for anything else you need. So if you just need a sweater or a scarf or an umbrella if we're in London, you then can minimize the space and you then can keep it relatively thin and also relatively lightweight. So it's sort of maximizing all of that around and starting with what you need in your day.
And that's really interesting. You talk about lightweight. I mean, I know that your choice of leather, we'll come onto the bags in a second, but your sort of choices when it comes to the craftsmanship aspect of it, like the materials you use and so forth, have allowed for that. And that's really interesting, and we'll go into it. But before we do, could you tell me who the Métier man or woman is?
Yeah, I mean, we have the best clients. We're really lucky. It's very much, it's a really global audience. It's men and women. It's pretty ageless. It's really people that are charting their own paths in their lives. They sort of love quality and they really recognize it. They don't need, screaming details. I always say that they're people who have plenty to say and nothing to prove. They don't need big logos to do the talking. They don't need, they know what's good, and they feel good about that. But they're busy. They're sort of, moving and shaking through life and really building their own métiers in their own way. And so they need the functionality to sort of make their life easier because, I think the one thing you can't get back in life is time. And sort of when you're running through your day and you're thinking of a million things and you're sort of creating and building and doing things on that level, the last thing you want to worry about is where are your house keys and, oh my God, my bag's so heavy, or my laptop doesn't fit, or I forgot my chargers again, or where's my passport, and you're fumbling at the passport line. That ease. And I think it's very much in the same way that you would buy a luxury car. A car will drive, but you buy a luxury car because it drives the most beautifully. And I think at the base, a bag should carry, but a luxury bag should carry the most beautifully.
Marvellous. So now you speak of the bags, let's look at the bags. So we now have bags, and aren't they marvellous? And now, okay, so it is, I think, women and bags and having a bag is a kind of, it's an essential part of most women's outfits when they go out in the day. It's not for men. We are slightly confused with our bags. We have luggage, and we're good with luggage. We know what we're doing there. But a lot of guys don't know, I mean, certainly I think things like concepts like briefcases, they're a much harder sell than they used to be. We are looking for utility and adaptability, but we kind of don't know what we're looking for at all, and so we go with nothing and just use big pockets. Presumably, this is meant to kind of fill that void. So why don't you tell me about your men's bags that you have and what it is and how you approach the topic, because it's a complicated one to kind of draw men in and get them walking out with one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of my favorite men's designs. It's called the Closer. It was one of my first designs. I think I did it in 2018.
Yeah.
And remains a real
The Closer,
favorite.
did you say?
Yeah.
That's a good name.
I do. I have a lot of fun naming the
It's
bags.
like, yeah,
I envision them as like sort of
It's like a headline for an article. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
best bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think what I really wanted to do was, we all love classic style. My grandmother, for example, still is maybe the chicest woman I've ever known before. And I hope in many ways, there's a lot of style cues that I've taken from her on just sort of loving the classics and classics well done. The difference is, though, in 2024 is that we're a little bit more relaxed. We can have more of a conversation. She always had her hair in sort of this perfect bun or like heels and very Jackie O sort of style. Whereas today we're more relaxed, we're more unbuttoned. So I really like to take classic styles and infuse sort of what I call a relaxed confidence to them. So sort of taking a more classic briefcase shape, but then making it really slouchy and lightweight. And so I think by infusing that ease, you're sort of creating this modernity that feels really relevant for today, but it doesn't feel so overly modern and stylized that it no longer feels timeless.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of, for me, what I love in design. I love the classics and I love just simple things done really, really well. But I also really love today that there is something that's more easeful than in the past and unbuttoned, so to speak. And so I think we work really hard to create that slouch.
Yeah.
The mastery, though, is how to do that in a lasting way. Because, of course, the lighter things are and the less you reinforce them, they either need to have a lot less going on inside, and that goes against sort of my desire to create something that's sort of has such heightened functionality, or it'll break, really. So what we did was sort of I skived the leather to be as lightweight as possible everywhere it needs to be, and then I studied the pressure points around the bags, and we've developed specific ways to reinforce the bags only on those pressure points, and that allows it to be really lightweight and slouchy, but then also really strong.
And it's buffalo leather, which is a terrific leather. When I love buffalo, usually for accessories as well. So cigar cases, a lot of done with buffalo leather and stuff, and it's a lovely, supple, surprisingly soft leather. People, I mean, you hear buffalo, you think sort of strength and size, whereas this is a really soft, beautiful leather and supple.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, buffalo I love for two reasons. One, you can skive it down, which means to make it thin.
Do you know why it's called skiving?
No, actually.
So it's apparently, forgive me.
No, I like it.
Nerding out a bit. So it was considered the most straightforward job in the factory for leather workers. So they always got off first. So they were the skivers. So it's referred to as
that is a top tip. I mean,
there you go.
There's
little
my
leatherwork fact.
there we go. We should enter a pub quiz for leather.
I learned it because it was shoemaking. That was where I learned that.
That's
because
really cool.
shoemakers do it to kind of mean that there's like a sort of the leather sits flush against each other without like sort of too many rises.
That's so interesting. I never knew that. So we skive it down to be really, really thin. It's actually 9 millimeters.
Okay.
Whereas I think more are sort of 1.2, 1.4. 1.7 even.
Yeah.
So it can get really thin. That's one reason I love it, while remaining strong. The other reason is that it's a natural grain.
Yeah.
So calfskin actually is flat and doesn't have a grain, which is really beautiful. But sometimes when you want sort of more of a sporty look, I think there's a real reason for a grain.
Yes.
If you see a grain on calfskin, it's fake. It's actually been printed and stamped, and that really goes against everything we do is of the highest quality, super natural. There's nowhere to hide, because when you stamp on a leather, you actually can hide defects.
Yeah.
So sort of it was really to have a grained option that was super natural and that you can make really, really thin.
And let's talk details as well. So where do you have the made, and how did you manage to incorporate all these little details? And you can take us through all the details as well, because they're terrific, and the way you thought through all these bags, as you say, small spaces but lots compact into there. Take us through that whole process.
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, I start by thinking of everything you need on your journey. So this one is called the Closer All Day. It's really what I call sort of the day to overnight bag. A lot of clients will take it when they go on from London to Paris on the Eurostar for the night, or if they're living in the countryside and they come into London for a night. It's that perfect bag to come somewhere in the morning, have to work all day, or need a bag for the day, and then you have a one night overnight. And so sort of what I thought was, okay, first you need to always easily access your essentials. So always on the outside, I have sort of this dashboard for your essential items. So this exactly perfectly fits a passport, your pen, of course, your phone. This is your most important card, so that if you have a building pass or anything else, it's always really easy just to get that one card out.
Yeah, very good. That's very good. Yeah.
And then something to attach your keys to. So that's sort of there. Then on the inside, I then thought about, okay, what are the compartments that you need? So there is a laptop case and magazines, books, notebooks, etc., and then another dashboard for business cards and all the sort of secondary things. There's also a pocket for your notebook, or for me, my sketchbook. And then on either side, there's two sort of interior side pockets. I actually keep all of my electric converters on one side, and then on the other side, my sunglasses. And then on the other side is sort of a zipper pocket for valuables. And then on the back, I then thought, okay, well, then what if you're then also using it with a trolley? So if you're not, there's a little magnet pocket that you just tuck in your newspaper. But if you are, you just unzip this zipper pocket and then
great.
you can put it through. So
Super.
it's really just sort of on a 360 approach, sort of what you need for the day. And then you can see it's, to carry all of that and, by having the walls of the bag, utilizing everything and sort of stacking them around, then on the inside you really can have that pouch for that one night of clothes that you need or whatever. So it's pretty thin, but it packs a punch. And then I just get obsessed with all of the other details. So the base of all of the bags, it's a signature. They're rounded, so that when it's full, that point that hits your leg or your hip is soft, rather than it being sort of a straight line ahead.
Yeah. Very well thought through.
We re-engineered the spring, so all of our hardware is made from solid brass.
Yep.
And we re-engineered the spring to make it really small and elegant, but then make that sound that it's really easy. I never liked it's called a moscatone, but in English, dog clip. I never liked the ones where you have to push with your hand. I think they hurt. So that's sort of just meant to be as elegant and simple as possible. And if you you can feel that hidden reinforcement underneath, because of course if you're wearing the shoulder strap, there's a lot of pressure there.
Pressure on that, yeah.
So then we sort of put a sort of a metal reinforcement that you'll feel. So you can sort of start to feel that the sides of this panel are just a hair thinner than this one, because all the side panel is doing is holding things in, versus the front and back panels are keeping things up. So we make it a little bit stronger there. Okay. You can start to feel all of the little hidden tricks.
So it doesn't feel like a bag that can be made in haste or made cheaply. It's sort of, this is a serious piece of craftsmanship, which is part of the kind of the Métier ethos, which is that craftsmanship is at the very center of what you do.
Yeah, it's craftsmanship and timelessness. I don't believe that we should be replacing our things. If you're investing in something, and also, if I say this is the best I can do, and I come out later and very soon later and say, oh, here's something better, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I should wait and really take time to design it, test it. We test all of our bags in a facility that simulates 20 years of use in Italy. I have friends then try them, especially if they're men, just to get feedback, really perfect them. And I sort of really believe in doing one product for one journey and only bringing in more when you have something you haven't already addressed in the collection, which usually comes from requests from clients.
Got it.
Which is really fun.
And you have a Métier the capacity to do kind of, one-off bespoke kind of requested items. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I do them for sort of our top clients. I'm one person, so I only have so much time. But it is something I'm really interested in exploring, because it's a really fun way to get feedback, to understand what people want and need and what I don't already do. And the whole collection and everything I do, the ethos is inspired by my clients. That's why the brand's name is Métier. It reflects our métier, which is our love and passion and reason for being, for creating these leather goods, but it's for your métier. Yeah. For you to be able to live your life and build what you're doing in a better way. So I love the bespoke aspect of what we do. I just need to work on that clone machine.
Fair enough. Have you ever had any kind of particularly fascinating request that, you might not, it filled a void that you might not have thought of?
Yeah, I had a request. This was really fun, from a watch connoisseur. Yeah. Who basically said that, the watch boxes that he had found out there were all really clunky, they were heavy, they didn't maximize space in the right way. And as I'm really passionate about maximizing space. I think, because I didn't study bag design, I studied sculpture. Okay. So I think that I loved making chairs, and I think that it's probably why I love boat design. I think there's really something in it for me around that I find challenging, to maximize space. I think it's really interesting. But anyway, so he asked me to make him this watch box. So I came up with this design that is just as small as possible, very little padding, just all that you need around it. And then I put in sort of a little magnetic layer in between, or anti-magnetic layer in between the lining, so that when he went through security, his watches wouldn't
The watch
reset.
wouldn't magnetize. That's very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people are terrified of that.
Yeah, and so that's like, if I had all the time in the world, and you know, as we grow the business and as our brand is growing, that's sort of really, it's to give me more time to do this, because that's what I love.
Yeah.
I love getting to here and thinking of challenges. And then, you know, I'm really lucky to work with, you know, my team in Italy that's headed up by, his name is Luca Flavi, who is sort of my partner in crime in all things product. And sort of, I come up with all of the ideas and then he brings them to life. And so we get these requests, and the two of us sit there and we're like, oh my God, how do we do that? And then we sort of come up with it, and that's really the best part of that's why we're here.
Yeah, and we can sort of then go to the next interesting aspects of all of this, which is, and why this bag's actually quite a good one to be talking about now, which is discretion in luxury. So you have the utility, you have the personalization, you have all these things, but then there is, I think, a lot of people who don't necessarily want to be, they don't want their luxury goods to be a sort of an aggressive expression of their wealth, or, you know, or anything like that. They want just something that's beautiful. And I fear that a lot of the luxury industry does gear towards needing people to notice these people. As you say, somebody who has, what is it?
Plenty to say, nothing to prove.
That's something that's marvelous. It's such a good say. It's so well thought through. Perhaps this is another expression of that. So, you know, I love totes. I love a tote. I think it's a great thing, and I think all guys should have a tote. Lesson for everyone. So tell me about something like this, how you thought it through, because this feels, as opposed to this, which would be a weekender, something that a guy should have on them every day for.
So
for
this, they're actually the same size.
Are they?
Yeah, they're the exact same footprint. It's really interesting.
That is amazing. That is fascinating. Yes.
Yeah. So that was basic. So basically, I got asked to make sort of, this is sort of the beloved bag. This is actually a preview. It's just about to come out. Spoiler.
First look.
I'm really proud of this piece. I've been working on it for a while.
Yes, I mean, it's super.
It's really, it was the answer to, okay, this sort of size is amazing and it's great, but how can we do it in something that's a little less, or how can we do it in a more casual way as well? So I sort of I wanted to create more of a sporty, utilitarian feel, but still really elegant. I mean, I think like a lot of people, Steve McQueen would be on many people's mood boards. And so I always think like, how can I imagine him wearing this? And sort of something that's sort of really slouchy is really important. So it's actually, what's cool about it is the front and back panel actually goes straight up over the top. And so then where the handles stop, it creates a natural fold.
Yeah.
And so that slouch already there is just like
great.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Really, really relaxed. But that was the idea, was to sort of create something that did the same thing as that, but in more of a tote way. And then I love kind of coming up again with all of the ways to maximize space. So you think that the pockets are just here, but then actually hidden behind it is a little magnet pocket. And then the inside is all of the same, of everything that, I don't feel you need to reinvent the wheel. I think if you buy a car and then buy another one from the same maker, you don't want the dashboard to be totally different. And you want it to have consistency. So I try to do that. I think in terms of discretion, I can immediately tell that your jacket is gorgeous and so beautifully made. You can tell by the way it drapes, and you can tell by the way the tailoring is there. And that's the way with all well-made clothes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need big logos. It sort of turns heads because it is beautifully made and beautifully thought through. And sort of, to me, that equivalent of draping is how much the way that I brought this up with this cut line and just the right amount. If it was, I played a lot actually with that to create just the perfect slouch. If it was too much, it wouldn't it would look messy, and if it was too little, it wouldn't slouch enough. And so to me, that is a very similar approach to what turns heads and what sort of creates that effortlessly striking aspect to what real design is. I think I personally, for me, logos are a really lazy trick to stand out, and I'd rather sort of stand out. You know, there's a lot of talk about quiet luxury, and we've been looped into that, and I've been really proud to be that. I think, though, the term now has gotten a little bit misunderstood, because quiet doesn't mean that it's minimalist and boring.
Yeah.
I think we both sat at a dinner party last week together, so I think we can both say we are not quiet.
No.
But it's more around, I don't need to shout in obvious ways about who I am or what I do.
Yeah.
You know, you let the work itself or your choices do the talking for you. And I think that's really what quiet luxury is. It's not utilizing things that are, you know, really that do the talking for you.
Yes. And I think that what I've found, the way I read, I think your processes and Métier's kind of approach to all this is that it's not about meeting sort of deadlines of kind of various sort of fashion seasons or whatever. It's like test and test and test until you get exactly what you think the product should be, because then at that point you know that there's going to be people that appreciate it.
Yes, for you, you know, it's sort of the way a zipper moves. Like we invest in the highest quality zippers that not really many people do anymore, sadly. Because when you open it, when you're stressed out on the plane or wherever, and it opens really smoothly and it feels like butter, it's just like, oh, like I'm okay. Like somehow when I like reach in and know where my keys are already, I think it's a miracle. But also when it's like against, like my hands against the highest quality Alcantara, it then also feels luxury. I mean, that's sort of the level of details that, it's for the client. It's sort of, that's why we do, you know, what branding we do is actually our signature color, which is called Amarone, which is sort of this deep, soulful, rich color. And it's always an Alcantara, which is a microfiber that was used in vintage luxury cars, because it's something that is really soft and feels great, but it's also really durable. Whereas if you use a traditional suede, it wouldn't really work well. But I think those details, that's on the inside of every bag, and it's the lining on the inside of every single bag. And I think that, again, it reinforces sort of the designs are meant for the person I'm creating them for. You know, one of the original tenets of the brand was, because I had worked for larger houses for a long time and didn't feel good about the amount of product we were producing for many different reasons, but also because I just didn't think we could ever do it in the best way. So a core tenet was that we never go, you know, we don't do seasons, we don't follow any calendars. We create when there's something worthwhile to create, and we offer it when it's been properly thought through and tested. In the same way, we don't go on sale. We're sort of talking about the highest quality handmade craftsmanship using the best quality materials, solid brass hardware. And the price point, it is an investment without a doubt, but it's, you know, I want to also the customer to know I'm offering the best price I possibly can. There isn't padding costs for assuming things go on sale.
Yes.
And that was also really important to be able to say to the customer that, you know, not only what am I offering to you is the best it can be, but also this, you're getting exceptional value for your money.
Oh, I agree, and you know, I think that you as beautifully as you speak about the products also speak for themselves, and you know, what's also astonishing is that it's a young brand, and you know, there's not that many young brands that come along and really dedicate themselves to an old-fashioned sensibility when it comes to product craftsmanship and I guess luxury as a whole, and so. Thank you so much for taking us through this, having us along. I sort of hope it slightly rewires a guy's thinking when it comes to the purchasing of a bag, because, as I say, we aren't educated in it at all, but we are, I think, wired to feeling like we need something. I mean, men that we shop by walking out down the road and seeing somebody with something, being like, I need an overcoat, or I need a new cardigan, or I need a bag. And thank you for taking us through this. It's a real pleasure, and congratulations on the creation of such a wonderful brand.
Thank you so much for being here and helping share what we do. It's such an honor to be able to speak with you, and real pride for my team and me to be able to celebrate what we do.
Cut. In the intervening years, it's become one of the most respected